Hey, hello there. Welcome to the a very unusual version of the 757 Spyflight show. This is not a live stream, so to speak. This is pre-recorded so that we don't have all the distractions and things that we would normally have on a live stream, so that we could take a closer look at this airplane. This is the Airbus A350. It's making a lot of headlines, both in the real world of aviation, a lot of airlines that are picking this airplane up and being very, very happy operators of this airplane. Pilots really seem to like it too. Passengers really seem to like it. But it's also getting a lot of play in the flight sim world, particularly in the world of X-Plane, because this is the flight factor 757, the one right now that famously does not have the SIDS and the stars. So I wanted to put together just a little tutorial thing, kind of a boy, tutorial sounds like a scary word. But still, this is just sort of my workarounds and how this works. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is this video is going to become dated. The folks from Flight Factor are updating this. There is going to be a version 2 that's coming out. Right now, we're talking about version 1.52 of this particular airplane. That's the one I'm flying with right now. This video also is not a video where I want you to think that there is a right way versus a wrong way. It isn't one of those things at all, because there's several ways to make this airplane work and work really well. What this is what's working really well for me. And of course, I'm going to read your comments and your questions on YouTube and on Twitch. We're going to be talking about this on the live stream on the next Spy Flights. So happy landings. And I think that the best thing for us to do is well, let me show you. This is going to be the flight we're going to do today. One of the things I'm going to suggest is when you're getting used to a new airplane, do a very familiar flight, like your hometown airport to a big hub or something like that. So we're going to take the A350 from Billings to Denver. It's only about an hour flight. And Denver is a really nice airport for taking a big airplane in. Weather couldn't be better for this flight. There's a couple little weather systems out there, but really it's going to be fairly nice. Taking off on 28 right, landing on 16 right, and all of that good stuff. So there's two basic parts of all of this. There's going to be flight planning and then actually doing the airplane. And I've got this little list up here. These are called MEL items. Doesn't have to do with it. A guy named Mel. Mel's an airline term called minimum equipment list. Actually, it's an airplane term, not just airlines. And so here's the MEL items that you need for this. First of all, you got to be flying on X-Plane. The Flight Factor A350. I do recommend a charts program, a charts application. I use Navigraph. I pay for the subscription. And if you don't, there are other places to go, but you need a good set of charts for the airports that you're going to be going in to supplement what's going on in the airplane here. I also use SimBrief for my flight planning. SimBrief is free. And of course, you've got to have a beach shirt if you're going to fly along with me, and you've also got to have a cup of coffee. So those are the first parts. The second, so let's talk a little bit about how we do this, flight planning. And the initial flight plan you do on SimBrief. And so let's go right out to the airplane here. Yep, there's the airplane and all sorts of cool stuff here. And we're going to start you off with the SimBrief stuff here. And one of the things is after generating your flight plan, there's a couple of things to do here. First, I'm going to go and edit the flight plan that I've just generated. And here is that flight plan. First thing you got to do is over here in units, make sure you switch it over to kgs. You've got to have it into kg mode. It doesn't work too terribly well in pounds. This is an Airbus. Second thing that I suggest that you do with all of this is once you've got a flight plan and you've checked it all out, and I think in advance, because this airplane doesn't handle changes mid-flight too terribly well, if you're going into a place where there's VATSIM ATC, they may make a change on you. But if you can possibly avoid or have a quick look at what your airport is going to be doing before you take off, that's really important, I think, which is what real-world pilots would do too. But you need to be able to plan ahead a few things. So I'm going to look at FlightAware, and it looks as though Denver is landing to the south. Landing and taking off to the south, so we can plan for that. I know my hometown airport is taking off towards the west, so we're good there. So you make sure that you start off with the right SIDS and stars. There is no SID going out, but we do have a star going into Denver, and since we're going to be landing to the south, we're going to want the Tishner 3 arrival. Okay, so we've got that one done. The next thing you're going to want to do is download this into your airplane. And this is a real simple thing to do. Go on down here to where it says, This is the SimBrief downloader. And what you want to do is go all the way to the bottom here. See where it says X-Plane 9 and 10? Not 11. Even though we're using 11, you want 9 and 10. And hit the download button. And you want to put that, so there's your X-Plane directory right there, X-Plane 11. Go all the way down to where it says Output. Double-click Output. And look, there's a bunch of folders. There should be. And one of them that's in there is something called FMS Plans. And there is some FMS plans. I recommend that you keep this relatively clean. You're going to have to go in and delete some of the older plans unless there's something you want to keep. But then you just save it in there. And remember, this is important. X-Plane 9-10. That form of the flight plan is what works. And at that point in time, I think we're pretty good. So let's go ahead and log out of SimBrief. And we're good there. And back to what it is that we're going to do. So we've got our flight plan. We've exported the X-Plane 9-10 flight plan to the FMS plans, and we can go back out to the old airplane, and we start up good old X-Plane 11. What are some of the things we're going to do on this one? Well, in the cockpit, we're going to import the flight plan into the A350 FMC. We're going to select the departure runway. We're going to verify constraints on the flight plan. And those don't translate so well. Leave the arrival runway open and be ready for arrival changes, especially if you're going to be flying on VATSIM. All right, enough yammering about that. Let's hop into the airplane. This is the Flight Factor A350. We are currently at Billings Logan Airport. By the way, this is a freeware airport that is really, really nice. And we'll climb aboard the airplane. And one of the reasons that I'm really kind of taken with this airplane is look at this cockpit. It just really looks okay. They look more and more like a spaceship, don't they? And one of the other things that I've done is this is a very complex airplane. So I've also going to stick with the checklists on this one because you can forget stuff that will end up causing trouble. I've got a couple of notepad files, and the first one here is called My Notes on the A350, and there is an initial startup that I'm going to be following here. I've also gone and done a little bit of math as far as passengers and also contingency fuel and a few other things. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're seated in the pilot seat. We're going to go up here and we're going to turn on battery number 1. This thing's got 4 batteries on board, so battery number 1. And let's also go ahead and turn on the nav lights. That way the people out on the ground know that there's some idiot sitting in the cockpit punching buttons, and that could be a thing. The flight attendant. Okay, it's Flight Factor. We all know about the obnoxious flight attendant. There's 2 things. You could either ignore it, or just like in the 757, you can punch the flight attendant button 15 times, and it'll kill him. Eventually, he's going to shut up and go away. But, if you're feeling particularly homicidal, you can, of course, go ahead and do that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is now that we got the battery on, let's go down here. And this is sort of the flight sim options. My options I pretty much left alone. So let's go right over to ground services. And we're going to turn on the ground power units. I'm also going to put chocks in front of the wheels. We're going to need a fuel truck. We're also going to need a luggage loader. We're going to need those little the little train of baggage carts. And we're going to tell that the airplane is at the gate. Okay, so we've got those things done. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look back up here, and we see now that external power 1 and 2 are available. We're going to get off the battery as quick as we can. So we're going to plug in our battery and be ready to go. And now we're going to go back down in here. Ground equipment is done. Let's open some doors and hatches. I'm going to open up 1 left, forward and aft cargo bays, the 4 left door, and then bulk cargo. And if you take a look outside the airplane, now all of a sudden our little ground stuff is all available, including the back door here, which already has a stairway, and you can see bulk cargo is right over here. So bulk cargo is right there. This is where they're going to take the bags down for people that, don't have room in the overhead bins. And once we get up into the air, we'll take a look at the inside of the airplane. And I'll tell you, this is just a business class seat that I have set up. And it really is nice. And there's one of the big Rolls-Royce Trent engines that we got going there too. Okay, so we got those doors open, and that takes care of those things. Let's also look down here and get some lights going on. Let's kick the floodlights up just a little bit. I'm also going to kick the pedestal flood up. And I'm also going to look over here off to the side, and I'm going to turn the console light on. This backlights all of the instruments and just makes it a little bit easier to see, even in the daylight. Okay, we're good with the lights. Let's go to the next item here. And the next thing that I like to do is hit the airplane button. And let's go ahead and do our fuel. And fuel, we're going to get a lot of the information from the flight plan that I've generated. Obviously, I spend most of my time flying for United Airlines, so this is the United Airlines format that you get from SimBrief. And we're going to go to the fuel planning page here, and I'll be getting my data directly out of this. I'm going to have to slide it off to the side so that I can plug all this in. And the first thing we need to do is get fuel for destination, and that's going to be 5.1 tons. So 5187 is our fuel there. Our alternate flight is going to take us down to Colorado Springs, and that's 2186. Okay, contingency fuel. This is where I've had to do a little bit of math. So I've taken the FAR of 30 minutes and then 15 extra minutes for the 15, and that's going to be 3766. So 3766. Now for APU time, I'm just putting in a blanket 30 minutes right now. And for taxi time, really it's going to take about 30 minutes in. 10 minutes out, probably about 15 minutes to get in. And then TO remain. I believe that this is remaining fuel in the tanks, and that's going to be 5952, 5952. And that's going to give us 18.7 tons of fuel on board. Our friends from SimBrief said I was going to need about 1746. So this put a little bit more in. I don't have the math completely done, but that at least gets you taken care of as far as those things are concerned. And now let's hit implement. That's just going to plug this thing right in there, and we're going to start fueling up the airplane. Passengers, we have 6 flight attendant positions and 2 crew, so let's call 8 crew members. First class, we got 20 people, so 20 people in first class. In business class, we have 36. Obviously, we're going to fill the premium seats, and let's call it 186 back here in steerage, economy. And that gives us a total number of 250 passengers, and we've got that set. And all that is good. So now we're done with all of these things here, and that little checklist that you saw that I had, this little basic initial startup, we're done. Click. It's gone, because now we're going to go to the official checklists on the airplane. And boy, are they extensive, and I think you got to do these things. So the next thing that we're going to do is check off that the aircraft is on battery power, and we're going to go and plug in some more batteries. And then, like I said, this airplane does have additional batteries. There's emergency battery 1, emergency battery 2, and battery 2. So we got those plugged in, and our electrical power-up has started. That's the flight attendant bugging us. I'm just going to leave him alone for a few minutes right now. The ECAM. This is the ECAM down here. And we want all of these lights to be out. They are. And now we're going to go and start plugging in some more data. This is basically ground link data. So NSS data to avionics. And then the gate link. We're going to look up here a bit. And we got a lot of computers running. So let's also get the cooling going as quickly as we can. And that takes care of that. APU master switch. Just like in the baby bus, the APU master is right there in the middle. That takes care of that. And then we're going to look down here. This thing should have switched this primary flight display, engine flight display. This should have switched this automatically, but it didn't. So you need to go and hit the APU button itself and tell it, yep, I've hit the APU button there. Make sure that you're on APU, which we are. And let's look up here, and we're going to start the APU. And then we can look back down here and watch and see, is the APU available? Thing powers up fast. I mean, we're already at 70% on the N1 on the APU, and we're looking for it to say avail right there. Ha! We have the APU, and it is availed. So that's a good deal. Radios, big deal here. They call them the RMPs. So we're going to start. And we'll look down here. 122.8 is what I've got in VHF Radio 1. VHF 2, important safety tip here, especially if you're going to be on VATSIM. Make sure that VHF 2 is not on 122.8. Otherwise, you will hear an annoying echo of your own voice. And that's just no good. We're going to turn that little button on right there. And we're going to turn this up and over. Let's turn this over here and over. Turn up the cab. And I'm only going to turn this up a little bit. And turn the PA up. That's the flight attendant. I'm going to turn him up. As you're taxiing around, you might pick up the marker beacons of some of the other other runways. So I'm going to turn this off marker and just turn this to the ILS. Okay, so we're good there. Now we're going to go to the squawk page. We're going to turn it from master to slave. And we're going to go and put in our squawk code, which is 2, 1, 2, 3. That's good. And from mode, we're going to go to standby to off to auto. Now, I'm not sure that I've got this working quite right here. So one of the things is even though we're not flying on VATSIM, I've got Swift up there because I want to keep an eye on Swift and make sure that up here on the transponder, it goes from standby to mode C. I've been taxiing around and the towers basically said, dude, turn on your transponder. Well, I've got my transponder on. No, you don't. And it's sort of like, you know what? You're right. I don't have my transponder on. And so I don't think I have that set up very good. So RMP radios 1 and 2 are on. We've set some frequencies and we've got all of this done and we've confirmed our squawk is going to be 200. Now let's also go and do fire checks. It says the APU agent lights need to be off. That's up here. And we're going to go and kind of zoom in on the fires. The agents, make sure all of these agent lights are off and all of these covers are guarded. So we can say, yep, those are done. Those are done, and it's time to go and hit the test button. And the test button goes off. Oh my gosh, alarms and everything. Smoke alarms are also working. We've also got the master caution over here, and also lights are on the engine starts. Those are all of the things that we're supposed to check and make sure that the fire system is good. Now, this should have clicked in there and said, you've done the fire test. It didn't obviously for me, so I'm going to click it. It's going to show up as red on my checklist, but I know I've checked it because I'm a good pilot. And that's probably either something I'm doing wrong, or it's something that Flight Factor is going to fix. But it is going to show this as red on your checklist, and normal real pilots wouldn't even let that go by. Okay, let's do some more cockpit prep right now. Up here, we're going to turn on the purser evac. We're also going to turn on crew oxygen. That looks good. It's ADIRS time, and so ADIRS 1 goes on, ADIRS 2, ADIRS 3. We'll start that process going on. Remaining lights. Any other lights that I want to turn on? I've got my nav lights. I've got the cabin lights set up here. Actually, I don't have the cabin lights. Let's go over to cabin, and we're going to turn on the cabin lights for the passengers. So we're good to go there. So the remaining lights are now on. Seat belts. We're going to test those on, but we're fueling the airplane, so we're going to turn that off. And this is the point where I remind myself to go back to the panel. We'll go back to the passenger page, and I'm going to start letting the passengers on board. Got 250 people to get on this airplane, so we're going to let them get on board right now. So that takes care of that. We'll also do no smoking. We're also going to turn on the emergency exit lights, and those are good. And of course, the little button there, the flight attendant is still yelling at us, so heck with him. The cross bleed selector is going to pop on right now. That's ventilation in the airplane, so we're going to go and turn this to auto. We'll also get the normal airflow on as well, too. We're going to turn up the temperature in the cockpit and turn up the temperature in the cabin. I usually keep it a degree cooler in the cockpit. Pack 1, Pack 2, APU bleed, and then hot air. Not the hot air coming out of the microphone, the warm air. We've got tons of hot air. So our temperature selectors are good. And now we go back down here to the ECAM and we select this guy right here, electricity DC, and then look up here. These have rechargeable batteries on them, and I'm told you can overcharge the batteries. So you look at the amperage for battery 1 and 2 and all the systems. Make sure that the amps are not above 60. Otherwise, you've overcharged the batteries, and that means things are going to blow up, and we don't like that. Okay, back up to the top panel. It's time for us to go and hit the button on the APU generator, and APU generator goes on, and we're supposed to make sure that the fault light is not on there and the APU fault light is off. Generator time. These are the engine generators. There's 4 of them, 2 on each engine, and those are going to go on as well too. The bus tie is going to go on, and that's good. And it's main fuel pump time. There are two big ones. So main fuel pump, standby pump, 1, 2, and center tank feed goes online. And that takes care of all those. Maintenance panel. The maintenance panel is all the way up here. And so you look all the way up here, make sure all the lights are out. There is one light that's on. I don't pretend to understand that light, so I'm kind of leaving it alone. The flight attendant is bugging us again. As usual, I'm just going to ignore him. Pain in the butts, don't get ignored. Okay, cargo air conditioners. We're going to go ahead and do the forward, aft isolation valves, the bulk isolation valve. These are all of those to turn them off. We're also carrying dogs down in the cargo pit. So let's turn on the heater and turn up the temperature in the cargo bays. And by the way, what the flight attendant wants to yell at me about is he's going to say, "Sir, when are you going to turn on the cabin lights?" I do a bad impression of him, but I will go and turn on the cabin lights, and he still yells at me about it. So that's kind of what we call bite me at this point in time. And the next thing we're going to do is go up here and we're going to turn on what's called the ground hydraulics. This isn't the flying hydraulics. This is the electric pumps for green and yellow. And so the ground hydraulic systems are now on, and that takes care of that. Air data selectors, that's these three switches. Bing, bing, bing. They are all up. So we'll check that off. The landing gear handle is down. That looks good. Let's turn on anti-skate, and all that looks good. And then the standby instruments, that's these guys right here. Standby instruments are on, and we are getting closer and closer to getting ready to take off. Surveillance systems. Surveillance systems are down here. We're going to initialize them. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the transponder. That's the weather. That's the ways that you keep track of where you're supposed to be. And now we're going to go to the surveillance page here on the FMS. And this is where I think I'm still messing something up. I've been going and turning on altitude reporting to automatic and then just hitting the default settings. And I think that takes care of it, but I'll verify that when we're pushing back. We may have to go into the transponder and actually hit a button because it's not completely automatic. And now we're going to go over here to the FMS page, and it is init time. And so for initialization, I'm going to put in a flight number, and as usual, I'm flying as United Airlines, Flight 441. And now we're going to go to the company route and route select. And you remember how we downloaded the flight plan? All right, so let's go ahead and get builded in and apply it. And that takes care of that. Put in your altitude, which is flight level 390. This airplane flies a little higher, and our cost index is going to be 40. And that's good. That takes care of temperatures and everything else. Let's go to the IRS page. Just hit align, return, our departure. We're going to select our runway 28 right. Now we would have to have gotten our clearance by now if we were ready for that. Nav aids. Just check the nav aids page. I don't pretend to understand an awful lot of this, so we're going to leave it alone. I am going to look at the fuel page and verify that the fuel on board is what it is that I expected it to be. I am also going to change my passengers on board to 250, hit return, and our takeoff preferences. Takeoff preference time. So here we go. We've selected runways. We've got passengers. We're going to do flaps 1 for takeoff. Now let's go back over here and let's do the performance calculator. The slope on this runway is 0.0. So let's hit that, 0.0. Our flap setting is going to be flaps 1 for takeoff. And there we have our performance calculator for takeoff. V1, VR is 131. We'll rotate at 131. V2 is 131. So 131, 131, 134. Plug these in, 131. And all of this is keyboard entry too, which makes it a lot easier. And then 134. And that takes care of those. Let's go back over to the calculator briefly, and our flex temperature is 50. So 50 degrees is what we're going to plug in there. So flex temp and 50. All right. Going to ignore the flight attendant, and that takes care of that. That plugs all of that information in for us right now. So we'll return there, and we're all good to go with all of those things on the performance page. So now let's go to F-Plan, also known as the flight plan. And here it all is. K-bill, runway 28, that's already in. Billings, gates, grins, CZI, and then there is a latitude and longitude. So the original X-plane flight plan for X-plane 9 and 10, they would guesstimate a top of climb and top of descent, and that's what this is. This is giving us an idea of where to expect our top of climb and top of descent. We'll actually see that on the flight plan and in the map. So that's kind of a cool deal for us. Now we've also got another latitude and longitude, and that is an estimate of top of descent. Don't be fooled. It is only an estimate, and you want to start your descent a lot sooner rather than later. And then after that, we're going to go to OPI, which is the top of our the star, and it's got an altitude constraint in there. We don't actually need that, so I'm going to go into constraints and I'm going to delete that altitude constraint, and I'm just going to go and type in a 0, enter, and that's good, and that clears it. Now at Hinman, we do have an altitude constraint, so we're going to go into constraints, altitude, and this is going to be at or above, and then we need to be at or above flight level 270. And you just do the 3 zeros on that. At Sawyer, we want to be above flight level 230. Into constraints, at or above, 23123, and there we go. This is where it gets a little bit tedious in terms of using this, but it's something that works for me, and I don't mind typing into a flight plan, obviously. So this is at Moulton, and flight level 190, that's going to be at or above. So 190, that's good. That's after Moulton. At Wookie, we're going to have to fix this one. This is at or hang on, let me make sure. Nope, at or above. All right, and that's going to be 17123, and that's good. I'm continuing to ignore the flight attendant, who continues to be annoying. Okay, now Rams. This is a different one. So at Rams, we also have a speed constraint, and this is going to be a descent constraint, and our descent speed limit is going to be. Actually, no, that was wrong. It should be, yeah, good. Our descent speed is going to be 250. Just hit enter and then go over here and you can put in your altitude constraint, which is going to be at Rams 17123. There we go. And then hit return. Verify. Oops. Let's go into constraints, and it's B250, not 259. Okay, verify that, and that's good. Next one is be safe. Now be safe is a little bit weird. This is an at or below altitude constraint. I don't think at or below is working too terribly well at the moment. So I'm just going to put in 16,000 for now. This isn't right, but at or belows have not worked for me once yet. So I'm not going to do that. Be done. This is another double constraint. We've got a speed. So this is going to be 210 knots. And then an altitude constraint is at or above. And that's going to be 14,000. And we got that there. After be safe, that's be done. Be safe, be done. And at Tishner, we want to be at 210. And as you can hear, the flight attendant is getting more and more insistent. But we just ignore him and he'll go away eventually. And this is going to be at 13,000. 13123. Okay, and that takes care of our star going in. Now, I don't have a departure runway set right now. If I were on VATSIM, I would not be filling in this departure runway. But we're going to be flying offline, so we're going to go ahead and put our runway in today. And our arrival is going to be on runway 16 right. So 16 right is going to be our runway to come in. We can't do approaches, vias, or stars or anything yet, but we can put a couple of things in. So after Tishner, we would be going to Ski MJ, Ski Mary Jane. So SKIM, this is one we're going to actually put in a waypoint. SKIMJ, SKIMJ, Ski MJ, hit enter, and apply. No constraints are going to be needed. Then CU is next. So let's plug in CU. An awful lot of planning ahead, obviously. But when you do it, it works. So SEEYU, right? Yep, CU. Enter, apply. After CU, it's shred. And that's SHRED. SHRED. So shred. And I'm also taking a look at some of the distances between all of this as well, too. And at shred, there is a mandatory 10,000 feet. So there is a constraint here. So we'll put in an altitude, and it's at 10123. And there we go. And return. So we got shred in there. After shred, it's SAC, S-A-K-I-C. So SAC, no altitude there. After SAC, it's Newlyn, N-E-W-L-N. N-E-W-L-N. So there's Newlyn. And at Newlyn, it isn't a constraint, but I'm going to put one in as 9,000 feet because that's where the approach chart says we should be. So let's just go ahead and put that in, mostly as a reminder to us. After Newlyn, it's Meryn, M-E-R-Y-N. Insert M-E-R-Y-N. And at Meryn, we're supposed to be at 8,000 feet. So even though, again, it's not a constraint, I'm going to put it in there just to help us remember to be at the right altitude. By this time, though, we should be picking up the ILS and be ready to land. And then the last one, everybody knows the last one on this runway, right? It's Jetson, J-E-T-S-N, J-E-T-S-N. And at Jetson, we're supposed to be at 7,000 feet. So let's go ahead and put that just in. And by now, if you're not on your approach altitude, you're going to be going around because this airplane does not handle high and fast well. Now let's delete the route discontinuity. And now we have a complete flight plan. And this will get you down, get you in. Now, if you're flying on VATSIM and they change your approach, you're going to have to go and change all of that. So all of this information came from my charts. There's the Tichenor arrival. And so here was all of those altitudes that I put in. Then here's all the information that I put in for the approach. And we are good to go on that. So that's why you actually absolutely have to have your stars ready to go. And all this is good. Let's go to next. Okay, barrel reference. I'm flying with Active Sky, and at this airport, Billings Logan, the altimeter is 30.07. So let's go over here and plug in 3007. Okay, over here we'll do the same thing. It's not going to be an exact match. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Okay, and that takes care of the barrel reference. Don't worry, we're going to get to do some flying here pretty quick. Look up here. We got the little yellow airplane. We've got the north pointer. The PFD is on. It's working. All that is good. Over here, the Mach speed is dashed. Let's go ahead and put our final cruise, which is 39,000 feet. We're good there. Plug that in. And all of those lines are now dashed. And we're good to go. And that's that prep before pushback and start. We've already got our clearance. We're going to look up here briefly. There is our final fuel aboard. Make sure fuel on board has matched what we need. We've done the final load sheet and the zero fuel weight. The ECAM is set. Our seats are good. That's pretty good too. And now we're going to go ahead and disconnect from shore power. Told you we were going to get the airplane out. So external 1, external 2. We'll go down here. We're going to go to the airplane. Everything is good here. Doors and catches. Just close them all. That's good. Ground equipment. We are done with the fuel, luggage, the fuel track, the train of little baggage carts. I'm also going to disconnect power. And I'm going to go ahead and pull my chocks right now. Normally they wouldn't do that, but we're going to go ahead and start getting ready for our pushback. And I'm already talking way too much and not doing enough flying. So we're good to go there, and it is pushback time. Outside we go. This would be a point where we get on VATSIM and start yammering away, but we're not. So we're just not going to do that. I'm going to go down here, and let's go over here to the transponder. It's called TCAS in here, and I'm just going to switch this to on, and that has me on mode C. So now we're squawking the way we're supposed to be. And now, to shut the flight attendant up completely, let's go to cabin announcements and do safety demonstration, and we should never hear from this idiot again. And now we're good. And now let's call a pushback truck. Here comes our pushback truck. You can even probably see him. There's the pushback truck. I'm using this one. I have not tried to use this one yet with I haven't tried to use this one yet with better pushback, so I don't know how that's working. Okay, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the beacon on. I usually turn my beacon on as the truck is connecting. I'm going to make a couple of changes here to the information in front of me. There we go. And hopefully this will silence this person for a while. Okay, we're ready to go. So pushback truck has been called. Parking brake is going to go off. There goes our jetway. Later. Jetways are really nice at this airport. And let's look down here. And the pushback truck is good. And all we do now is we're ready to go. This is throttle pushback, so push your throttles forward slightly and the airplane will start rolling. And we are now pushing. Obviously, this is a much bigger airplane than they would have at this airport, but you can still get it in and out the door. You steer with the nose wheel, and so we're going to spin this thing as tightly as we can with this construction here on the tarmac. All right, now we're going to stop just a little bit. And now let's go back over here, and I'm going to hit the pull button. And now let's go ahead, and we're going to push the throttles forward again. And we're just going to get ourselves pulled out of this general tight area. Also, so we don't have to listen to the flight attendant. So you can push and pull your way with the pushback truck here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and move this slightly out of here. And that's good. And then we'll do some brakes. And now all we'll do is we'll hit the pull button, and there goes the truck. Parking brake is on, so we're good. And our flight attendant doesn't even know that we're done, that he's talking. How crazy is this flight attendant? All right, I think we're good. Guess what we get to do now? Start with the engines. Up here, main hydraulic pumps going on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hydros are good. ECAM goes to auto mode. So make sure that all the lights are out. That's good. And engine starter. Just like all the other Airbuses, engine start to start. Give it a second to breathe. And there we go. And here goes the engines. Numbers are good. There's an N2 and an N3 on the Rolls-Royce Trent engines. We're going to keep an eye on the fuel flow. We'll also keep an eye on the EGT. Make sure we're not setting a fire to the back of the airplane. It should start to spike any minute here. Now, in most of the Airbuses, you'll notice that over here on your main engine instruments, the word avail appears. What happens on this airplane is this indicator right here turns gray. Once it turns gray, that's your indicator that this engine is started and available for use. And there it is. So we got a good start on that engine. Let's go ahead and start our next engine. Here comes number 2. Actually, if you want to be a really good pilot, you wait until all of these numbers stabilize and stop moving. Once it's stable, then you can go ahead and start 2. And that's good. I'm also a bad pilot. I forget to lock the cockpit door, so we'll clear that off the ECAM. And now we're going to watch this. And we could also go here, and uh-oh, somebody did not set his brakes. How about that? Boy, am I an idiot. Not the best way to do this on a video, huh? Boy, I don't know if I could do this. Yeah, this airplane will roll on you. Oops. Well, that's going to look good. I'm going to leave it in. So, you got to set your brakes. I thought I did. No, wait a minute. You did see me set my brakes. Wonder what happened. Okay, so we got a good start on those despite the brake problem. Let's look and see. Well, there it is. I just set my brakes, so we're good there. After start checklist, engines and controls. Engine start selector goes down here. All right, what? I've turned on the lights. We played your stupid... Okay, so here it is. Airplane. Cabin. I've got the lighting. It's all the way up. What else do you want out of me, you freakazoid? All right. Anyway, engine start selectors go off. Obviously, this guy can be annoying as hell. Okay, let's go on up here. And we're going to do the engine bleeds. We'll also do the APU bleed. And anti-ice, I don't think we're going to need that today. And we can turn off the APU master. And then we're going to wait until the APU generator fault light goes on. And then we can disconnect the generator. Ground spoilers, we'll set that for takeoff. Flaps 1 for departure. That's looking pretty good. Pitch trim. Guess what? This airplane sets it automatically. Just make sure these numbers are relatively close. And this airplane sets your pitch trim. The ECAB status will clear all of that. GPS primary is set. We have no memos from the airplane. And so we're good. Final preparation up here. We're going to turn on the final navigation and data links. Let's get passenger entertainment ready to go. That includes SATCOM communications. So all of that's looking good. Final pressurizations. And now this airplane, believe it or not, we are ready to go and taxi. So taxi's pretty easy. Nose light. It would also like you to turn on the runway turnoff lights. And all that looks good. So there's our runway. Obviously the airplane rolled a little bit. So I'm going to go parking brakes off. And we're going to go with the left engine and turn it up. Let's see if we can't get over here. There we go. And we're going to actually go onto the runway because I'm an idiot, and we're going to use this taxiway to get us back where we're supposed to be. Oh, that's embarrassing. Okay, so now we're on a runway. And so what we're going to do is we'll take the next taxiway, and this will get us back. And then once we get on the taxiway, it'll be like nothing ever happened. Takeoff config, just like the other Airbus aircraft. Take a look at the memos here, and all of those should be good. Should have also gone and turned on seatbelts by now. Good time to check the tow brakes. Make sure you can stop the airplane. This airplane is a long, heavy jet, so one of the things you're going to definitely want to do is be going 10 knots or less as you make a turn. If you have questions about the airplane, you look over here on the co-pilot side. There is a manual that comes with the airplane, and that PDF file is already loaded in there so that you can refer to that. You can also get to that here on the pilot side as well too. And here we are, and we'll get on our taxiway. All right, you can also see the lights on this airplane are pretty bright. So some of the ground service people, you know, especially coming in, they will yell at you. They will yell at you if you're blinding them with the lights. Okay, checklist time. What do we got? Thrust levers are good. Auto brakes go to RTO. There's the auto brakes to RTO. It's going to take a second to clear, though. Auto brakes to RTO takes 1 or 2 seconds, and then it'll clear off the checklist before takeoff. The ND range navigation display, is that the way you want it? It's just making sure you're happy with that. It is. EFIS operations. Do we have everything here? Everything except I want constraints and I want terrain radar. There's no weather in the area, so we're good there. So EFIS is good as well too. And we're good up to strobes. And now we just finish our taxi. This airplane does take some work to get everything going on, and one of the other things about this is if you are going to get a change in runway or a change in your star, you're going to have a lot of typing to do. But it pretty much works fairly good. Now I will tell you that on a star, your descent, it's going to be pretty good about maintaining those constraints that we put in. It handles at or above just fine. Not so much with at or below at the moment, at least not for me. So I'm going to keep a close eye on my descent, and we should be fine. Okay, coming up on a tight turn. Again, to enter a runway. You can see its turning radius is actually pretty good if you're going around 10 knots or less. I should have gone a little bit further. There we go. This is one of those airplanes where you're going to taxi across the runway so you can get maximum amount of strobes, and I usually just put them flat out on. So right across the runway like we are here, and then that tight little 90-degree turn that a lot of airlines will do. That way you getting to do the whole, get to use the whole runway. And I think we're almost ready to go. Not bad. Brakes on. We're going to do landing lights. And last little bit of the checklist. Checklist is good. There's a takeoff checklist. We're going to start the chrono. So the clock is ticking. Thrust levers up to flex and toga. And we're ready to go. Remember how you were supposed to have everything set up in the cockpit? I don't know why it beeped at me. I didn't do anything. Okay, so throttle's up a little bit. Unlike the other airplanes, it does not click at you. So you have to take a look right here to make sure you're at flex or toga. 20% or so, make sure nothing's red, everything's stabilized. Throttle's up. Okay, we're good there. I hope they put the clicks in there, it'll be easier. Okay, steering with rudder pedals now, 100 knots. It's an Airbus. Got a little bit of a crosswind. And rotate. Positive rate of climb, gear going up. Airplane really does look good. Climbing a little bit high, so definitely want to follow the flight directors. Okay, it wants us to go to climb, thrust climb mode. We're good there, and I think we're good enough. Autopilot, and let the autopilot take us. Okay, we've passed the little S here, so we can go flaps up. Disarm the speed brakes. And we can continue, just continue our departure. Very nice little airport here. I do have a little bit of ortho scenery around here, but one of the things is I'm getting a little bit less and less, especially for flying at night. That's going to take us direct to gates. So we'll go down and just see where we are on the checklist. We did our takeoff thrust. We did our V1 monitor. We rotated. Our gear is up. Thrust levers to climb, runway turnoff lights. These, of course, did turn themselves off when they went into the bay, but you're going to go ahead and do that. And I'm also going to turn off the nose lights too. After takeoff checklist, anti-ice. Don't think we need that today. Climb checklist. Next step is baro reference, the altimeters. That's 18,000 feet here at this in North America. Let's go ahead and dial the radio at 1. And we are heading now direct to gates. There were no altitude constraints or anything like that, so if there had been, they would have shown up there. We don't need those, so let's go and be like the real pilots. The next thing we're going to do is turn on airports. And what we want to see on this is where there are airports nearby. Because, you know, if we have a failure, if we need to land, all we do is look right there at the ND, and we're going to be able to see that this is the point in the flight where we need to, you know, this is where we can go find an airport. You know, so I've noticed a lot of the in-flight videos that show up show all of those in-flight videos show real pilots, you know, with terrain radar and airports up. It looks like most of them. 10,000 feet. I'm going to ring the bell here for the flight attendants. Let them know that 10,000 feet. We'll also turn off landing lights. And that looks good. And we continue the climb. I get a cup of coffee. Now, if we were talking on ATSC and all that over on Swift on VATSIM, you know, obviously we'd be announcing intentions and all of that. But I just didn't want to do too many distractions coming in here. At least on this video. Actually, flying on ATC is really nice. So it's got us coming up to gates. There's grins, CZI. There's our alleged top of climb. But again, remember, that top of climb is only an estimate. Passing 12,000 feet. Go back into the cabin and have a look out the window. One of the things that people that get to fly on this airplane are talking about is how much they really like how big the windows are. They say the windows on this airplane for passengers are really big. The airplane also pressurizes a little bit differently. I don't pretend to understand all the different ways, but it is supposed to be a lot more comfortable. You're supposed to have what are you supposed to get out of the pressurization? I think it adds a tad little bit more humidity in there, maybe not, but it doesn't pressurize. You're not so high, so you're a little bit lower. So that's and it also handles the pressurization, I'm told, differently, so that people who have children, babies and infants, which are really, their ears are, I'm told, really susceptible to pressure changes. They're not going to cry as much, which I will find very nice because I tend to be the crying baby magnet when I'm a passenger. If I'm a passenger on your jetliner, you can guarantee there is at least one squawking kid or a kid kicking the back of the seat. It always happens, and I can't blame the squawking kid. You know, I understand that babies' ears hurt, and I understand that. I'm not being mean to them, but the little brat kicking the seat behind me, yeah, I blame you and your parents too. Kidding. Next step in the process for me is I'm going to go ahead and have a quick look here. There is the last airport. Let's put in Denver. Denver is partly cloudy right now. It is 3 degrees, 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Dew point is well below that. Winds right now, surface winds are 210 at 6, so landing on the 16s is going to be okay. We are still at good visibility, and the forecast is here on the TAF says pretty much a nice day to fly around the Denver metro area. So that's that step. Another step that I'm going to follow is we're going to go back into a web browser. And this is what I'm going to do even whether or not I'm on VATSIM or not. I'm going to go and have a look at the airport and see what the real world airports are doing. Because chances are if you're on VATSIM, that's what they're doing. And if you're not, or if there is ATC, that's what ATC will be doing. But if you're on VATSIM and there's no ATC, this just kind of helps because everybody else is doing this too. And yeah, we're landing and taking off to the south. They're also using 25 for departures. Looks like they're using for 8s for departures too. So they're departing east, west, and south and landing from the north. So that's kind of a good thing to check. We're passing 18,000 feet. Let's reset the altimeters. 2992, also known as standard. And I'm going to ring the bell again. We don't have any turbulence, so we're going to let the flight attendants know that they can get up. And with the flight attendants getting up, that means they're going to start the coffee, or continue with the coffee, which is a very important part of a early morning flight. And I think that that's one of the nicest times to fly too, especially around the mountains or around a weather system. The colors for sunrise and sunset flights are just getting absolutely amazing. And we're going over one of the parks that's to the south of Montana right now. And this is a canyon park where there's lakes at the bottom. I'm told that the water is very cold in these lakes, but it's a lot of fun. So, and this is a great area. Any area that has mountains, I love to see for ortho scenery. But at night, I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to turn off my ortho scenery because I've gone and got some sort of a setting that I've done wrong. And so my lighting, my nighttime lighting, really looks pretty dodgy with the ortho scenery. But if I take it out, nighttime lighting in the distance really looks good. Okay, past the 24,000 feet, usually around 25,000, I'll evaluate, are we in a turbulence zone? Were there reports of turbulence or anything like that? If not, especially on the morning, I'm going to go seatbelts off. Because there are passengers that were in the terminal, they went to Starbucks, they got a venti, they should have gotten a grande, and they're sitting back in their seats and they're going, I gotta go. We've all been there. I learned that lesson the hard way once, never had to learn it again. So you never get the biggest cup when you're at the airport on a morning flight, because that will be the day that you're going to be held in your seat for a long time. And the rules don't apply to people that I've really got to go. If the seatbelt sign is on, you stay in your seat. So even passengers have to plan ahead. Okay, our barrel reference has been reset to standard. The cruise altitude is set at flight level 390. Anti-ice is not needed right now. Seatbelts are off. ECAM memo. That's this guy right here. That's are we getting a memo from the airplane? No memos from the boss, so we're good there. Nav aids are good. Our optimum flight level is going to be 39,000 feet, so we're good there. And now our next step is going to be cruise. We have just passed Grins, going to CZI, Charlie Zulu India, our next stop. We can go ahead and open the map a little more. So there's Grins. We just passed Grins. SimBrief, when we started the flight, estimated our top of climb would be right around CZI, and that's what that latitude and longitude is near there. Once Flight Factor updates this, we'll get TOD. We'll actually probably get the hockey sticks. That's what Captain Mike Ray has in his books. And if you're getting a new airplane and you want to learn how to fly it like an ace, I definitely recommend Captain Mike Ray's books. He doesn't pay me to say that. He doesn't even know who I am. But his books are really good. Years ago, I got one of his books on the 757. Really helped me understand that airplane. When I finally decided it was time to learn an Airbus, I got his A320 book. I haven't decided if I'm going to pick up the book on this one yet. I think maybe I will when the version 2 comes out, which I think is really good. The way his flows are for setting up the airplane is really good to do. One of the things is, though, is sometimes those flows don't quite match what you're going to get on these electronic checklists on the airplane. That's the only drawback to that, but it gives you some really good insight into the airplane. You know, for instance, in an Airbus, why does it always sound like there's dogs barking down in the cargo bay? Inquiring minds want to know, and that answers that question. It has to do on the smaller Airbuses with a special pump called the PTU pump for hydraulics. Okay, we're getting a little bit of turbulence out here. There's a little bit of bouncing around that you can see, so I'm going to be a good captain and do seatbelts. There we go. There's seatbelts. Yeah, we're going to go seatbelts again with this bump. The bumps we're getting here. And we're at 31,000 feet. So, you know what we could do? Let's go over here to Active Sky and let's fill out a PIREP. Okay? Our aircraft model is Airbus 359. And we're going to go light chop at, what do we decide? 20, light chop at 30. Oh, it's already going to tell us where our altitude. Uploading the PIREP, and it is official. So now if we go over here, let's go to the map. And once the map is going, we'll lock to the aircraft, unlock it. And so there's my PIREP. It's already there. Light chop. And we actually have an air mat already out for turbulence, moderate turbulence below flight level 160. Well, we're up a little higher and there was some light turbulence. So yeah, that light chop already showed up. That's one of the neat things about Active Sky. You can actually get those kinds of things in there, which I think is even nicer. All right, what's next? Really, we're just going to monitor the climb, level off at 39,000 feet. I'll use this as an opportunity to let you know that once again, these are not necessarily the right or wrong ways to do to fly this kind of airplane. But after about 15, 20 flights in this thing, this is what's working for me right now. This video will become obsolete once Flight Factor puts out the 2.0 update. But for now, maybe this will help you fly this, because there's a lot of interest, especially in X-Plane, of folks who do want to fly this airplane. Up at 39,000 feet. We're at 36. We're going to probably hit our top of climb a lot sooner than SimBrief thought estimated we would. If you're wondering about where we are, right now we are 331 nautical miles to the north of Denver. The current time on the airplane, it is 15:26. We are supposed to be landing at 16:06. So, looks like we're going to be doing about a half an hour's worth of flying. Our estimated top of descent would happen at 15:47 Zulu. So we're going to have about 15 minutes worth of just basic flying here. Before we start our top of descent. We'll start our top of descent preps, and you actually have to do some top of descent preps. I realize that the video has been going on for about an hour. So one of the things that I was going to do is I was going to go to an external view of the airplane, and I'll just keep the video rolling here. But if you want to fast forward to the point where you stop seeing the external view of the airplane, that's when we're going to start doing some more stuff, like you know, the cockpit preps and everything for landing. So we're going to have about, you know, we'll let the video roll for about 15 minutes, and I'll just leave it on the external view and not yammer at you. You're not going to miss anything good. But we'll do a few things before we go and do that. And here we are. We're settling into our final cruise. And there we are at 39,000 feet. The autopilot is going, we went to Mach mode. We're also going into altitude cruise. We're going to wait for the little white box to go away. And that means we have achieved altitude cruise. We have settled into our final cruise. We'll look at the ECAM. Is there anything here? Nope. And then we could go and review all the pages down here. I usually at this point put it into cruise mode, and then all the little bits of information you're going to want are going to be right here. We got some engine information, packs are on, fuel flow, how much fuel we've used, what our block fuel is, total fuel used. The cabin altitude is set to auto. It is 20 degrees in the cockpit. It is 22 degrees in the cabin, and 15 degrees in the cargo pits. Total air temperature. Current time on the airplane, we're an hour and 13 minutes into the flight. Fuel on board, we got 14,000, so we're good there. All of that is looking really good. So pretty much the airplane has settled into our final cruise. We've got about 15 minutes before we're going to go and do a start our descent. So let's get out of the cockpit here for a second and kind of do a little bit of a walk around the jet. This one has a small bar in between first class and business class. So we can kind of get out of the seat and we'll step around and kind of just walk around the cabin here. And we're going to walk a little faster than that. Welcome up to first class. United is planning on putting their new first class stuff up here. Up in the first class galley area where we have 2 coffee machines. So there's 2 coffee machines up for first class. We can go this way. Somebody has gone and done, there are a couple of nice liveries for this. Somebody did this livery for me, but they also made the inside look a little more like United. Crew only, there's the flight deck door. The flight deck door will open. You can't open it from the outside right now. So you can't do that at the moment. But that's okay. You can open it from the inside, but it beeps at you until you close it. There is the left one door, the L1, and so this was the door that we had coming in. And you can see that Flight Factor's actually put some people in there. Just opposite of the L1 is this little door right here, and a very, very steep stairway. A super steep stairway. And this is the forward crew rest area. It's sort of like the crew lounge. And as we continue to go up, we'll look around here. And what we got is there is a seat here. And so this is probably a seat for a backup pilot. So there is a seat for takeoff there. There is a phone. And there's 2 beds with 2 phones and 2 video monitors there. So that's sleep quarters. And boy, is that a steep stairway. So if you're going to get a job doing that, you got to be ready to climb a very, very steep stairway. And we'll kind of go in here into the cabin now and make our way back. They are putting people in here, and normally it's, people in X-Plane look a little creepy. A few look like axe murderers. But, some, probably lifted from some zombie. Okay, now we're back into business class right now. And all that. I understand why Flight Factor Aero would have put their name up there like that, but it does kind of ruin a little bit of the immersion. I understand advertising, but come on. You got my money. Be classy. Back into steerage, also known as economy. And there's a couple of more bathrooms back here. And then as you go around back here, that's the L4 door. That was the door that we had open at the beginning for baggage. And here's the back galley area. And you count, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coffee, 7, 8 coffee machines here in the back of this airplane. Boy, are they putting out a lot of coffee in the airplane. I sure hope that they have very, very big tanks for bathrooms for all that recycling. And here we are. This is over on the right side of the airplane now, and another stairway. And so right here, as you take a look, there is another crew rest area up in here. And I'm going to guess that that's mostly for FAs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 beds up there for people to go and go to sleep on the super duper long haul flights. And there's mid-cabin bathrooms. And we're about ready to leave steerage for business class, so bigger seats, a little more legroom, and we're back to the beginning of our tour. So all in all, just a really nicely done airplane. I think when the V2 comes out, boy, is it going to be nice. There's the view outside. And back up to the spaceship cockpit type of a deal. So where are we right now? Let's go ahead and have a look. There is, we are coming up on DDY. That is near Casper, Wyoming. Our top of descent here is good 120 miles out near Opie. So that's going to be, current time on the airplane, that's going to be about 10 to 15 minutes worth of flying time. So like I said, I'm going to just let the video roll here. I'm punching this video kind of live, with OBS Studio. So I'm going to go outside the airplane here, turn off the microphone for just a little bit, and we'll just kind of watch the scenery go by. And as we get in a little bit closer, I'll pop the camera and the microphone back on, and we can go and continue the flight then. So enjoy the ride. See you in just a few. Hey there, welcome back aboard. We're getting a little bit close, so hope you're able to go and get a fresh cup of coffee and be all ready to go. It's time for us to start getting ready for Denver here. So let's start with the checklists, and everything is pretty good. We did the cruise checklist, so it's time for descent preparation and weather information. First step in the process is, do we have Denver weather? And there's our latest Denver weather. Right now, 3 degrees, 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind still 210 at 6, although the Airbus, they seem to want a magnetic heading. For information, we'll plug that in a second. Altimeter is 3025, partly cloudy, 10 miles visibility. Should be a fairly nice landing for us coming in. So our weather's good. Landing elections. I believe that that if I'm saying this right, the election has been set. We've set our runway for landing. Barrel reference preset. I think that they're telling us that they want us to preset the barometer in up here. And I usually do that when we start our descent because it will make the airplane go up and down just a little bit. ECAM status, it wants us to enter our destination data. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to do that over here on the perf page. And we're going to go to approach. And let's go ahead and plug in our wind. And right now, wind in Denver is magnetic 203. So 203 is our wind. And it is currently going at 6 knots. So that's good. Our outside air temperature is a whopping 3 degrees. And altimeter, it wants QNH on this, so your QNH is going to be 1024. Boy, is that one of the nice things that you get out of Active Sky, is you get all that information there. We're going to make this a full flaps landing. That means our VAP approach is going to be about 129. I'll call it 135. Transition altitude is 18,000 feet, and so our approach data has pretty much been inserted. Nav aids page, we're good there. All the pages are set, and auto brakes. This is going to be one of the Denver runways, so we're going to go auto brakes low. That's 2 clicks on auto brakes. And we can verify that auto brakes are now low over there, so that's good. Auto brakes are set. I don't think we're going to need anti-ice, and we're good there. Descent page, and our next step is going to be at descent, so we're good there. Let's go back to the flight plan, and let's look in here. All right, our top of descent right now is 22 miles away. I am finding that it is better to descend a lot sooner than that shows up. Now, if we're on VATSIM, they're going to give us our descent, but since it's our turn, we're just going to go ahead and plug all that in. So we'll just do that now. And to do this, you first are going to set the altitude we want to be at it when we're all said and done. I'm going to put in 7,000 feet. You might remember when I was setting in everything. 7,000 feet was what we had here just prior to our approach. Now we're going to be changing that a few times, and we also need to make sure that we don't go beyond any of the constraints too. So we have to monitor this closely. And now let's go ahead and hit the descend button. And we have started our descent. You can tell there goes the descent there. We're going to thrust idle. And let's go ahead and start to back this off just a little bit. And we're going to go from airports to constraints. We're close enough to the airport that we know we're going to Denver. And our first constraint, and I know that this one generally works because I've done it before on this flight, but it says flight level 270. It's kind of hard to see some of the purple stuff here, but it says 270, and at Hinman, it's 270. So I think this is going to, if we reach 27,000 feet, it will stop us there at Hinman. So let's see if we've actually started our descent in time to be relatively close to that. We're good to go there. Next step in the process, I'm also going to go ahead and let's clear out the billing stuff. And that's good there. And we're coming in on the Tishner arrival. And we're coming in at Opie. So we're outside of the zone right now, but as we get closer to Hinman, we can follow ourselves down on the moving map there. And sometimes it's really helpful to have this in here with the way the airplane is. There's our ILS approach coming on in. We're planning 16 right. After 16 right, if I've done this all correctly, we're going to hit Delta 5 to Whiskey Bravo, Bravo November in, and then we'll go down Gulf to Bravo Sierra. Actually, we'll stay on the north side and just go to Bravo 33, which is where they park the wide-body aircraft here in the middle part of Concourse B. And I'm going to go for Bravo 33 to come in. So we're good to go there. Our charts are set up. A little bit of wobbliness here. And you usually get that, especially in the morning along the Front Range of Colorado. So I'm going to go ahead and do seatbelts, which I've had the seatbelt sign on for pretty much this whole time now. So passengers sitting back there saying, I got to go. You also get a ECAM notice up here that auto brakes are armed. So you got 2 places that you can check your auto brake settings. So that's good. And we'll just continue on down here. Just past Opie, coming up to Hinman. Now we've also got a backup here. So we can also see where we are on this. And I think that until we get really good SIDS and stars, until the version 2 comes out, having some sort of a map like this, especially a moving map, I think is going to really help you. Particularly if you're going to take this airplane into a VATSIM zone where there is a lot of ATC going on. That will be kind of a good thing for you to do. There's a big VATSIM event that I'm going to participate in later on today, and I'm still on the fence as to whether or not I'm taking this. Not because I don't think it's a good airplane and I'm enjoying it, it's just I don't think I can control it as well as I need to be able to control it in this VATSIM event. So probably taking the trusty old 757 because I know I'm going to be able to make that work for me. And outside the windows, we got really great ortho scenery. If you're downloading Ortho for XP, I definitely recommend Wyoming, Colorado. But it's not just the mountains. The desert southwest, between Albuquerque and Phoenix and Tucson, boy, that's pretty amazing too. I recommend those areas for ortho as well. Thing is if I were flying at night, I'm probably going to start going into an application called X Organizer, and I'm going to turn off my ortho at night. I just click, go off, just because the lighting is so much better when you turn off the ortho. I think that maybe it's probably me doing a wrong setting, which, and leads me to be able to say this once again in this tutorial type of a video. What I'm doing here is stuff that works for me. This is not stuff that is necessarily going to be right the way that the manufacturer or the developer expected this airplane to be flown. This is just the way that works for me. And, hopefully, the "you got it wrong" police aren't going to be breaking down my door any minute now saying, "Boy, you hit this button the wrong way. We want you to do it this way. You're going to have to go to you hit the wrong button jail for 24." And I should probably stop. I should save my impressions for live streams and not tutorial videos, because we're supposed to be serious here, right? Passing 28,000 feet. So we are not going to get the altitude constraint at Hinman, but at Sawyer, we have another altitude constraint to keep an eye out for. So at Sawyer, 23,000, flight level 230 or above, you can see that it's set it right there. So I would assume that the airplane is going to know to be at 27,000 feet at Sawyer. We're going to hit 16,000. It's not an above or below here at Rams and be safe. So we'll see what happens if we actually hit those. Maybe hit it isn't the best term, but that's what we're going to use. And those are also really good indicators for you as to where you are in the descent process, because unlike the other Airbus airplanes right now, this does not have the little ball. And you remember on the A320 or the baby bus, the Tolus, there is a little purple ball that goes up and down the altitude tape here. And if you are on the proper descent path where you should be, it's going to be centered right here. If you're high or low, it will tell you about that. They haven't implemented that. Maybe it's I would assume it's on this airplane because it's a really good tool for pilots to use. So that's just something they haven't set up. Okay, we just passed Sawyer. So at Sawyer, we were supposed to be above 23,000. We're at 25, so we're good. Moulton is our next spot. And notice it also changed to flight level 190, so it knows to put that altitude constraint in there. That's good. At Rams, we're also going to drop our speed down to 250 knots. And so one of the things we'll see as we get in close to Rams is all of a sudden the speed is going to drop as well too. You'll notice a couple of hesitations coming in. I keep mostly the stable releases for every airplane and also for X-plane in here. And so as a scenery loads, you go and have these little things. Hopefully that changes when we get into the mostly anticipated Vulcan. And then of course after Vulcan, we're all extremely excited about Romulan and Klingon too. Sorry. The coffee is kicking in, so that means the attitude will start to flow here, and I will apologize for that altogether. What do we got? Molten is our next spot here. At or above flight level 190. Wookiee is at or above 17,000. And at Rams, now this is one of those interesting things, and I don't know how to pop this in here, but at Rams we actually were supposed to be below flight level 190 and above flight level 170. So I'm not sure how to program, something like this in yet. I'm mostly plugging in at or aboves. Be safe, this was an at or below 16,000. Again, I don't know how to make that work. I don't think the at or belows are working right now. And if they are working, I don't know how to do it, and please don't yell at me. Coming up on the Front Range of Colorado, if you ever are doing this flight, particularly in the morning or afternoon hours, this is an area where you're almost always going to get a little bit of turbulence. And how about that? We got a real nice sunrise this morning as well too. I think I mentioned in the other earlier in the live stream, sunrise and sunset are some of the best times to fly in X-plane. First of all, the shadows are going to be really long on the mountains, so you're going to be able to see that. But you're also going to get some really impressive colors. I mean, wow. Hey, how about that? Okay. I mean, we are getting so close to, the kind of scenery that's real. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? The next 5-10 years? You put a set of virtual reality glasses on, and are you going to be able to tell that you're in a simulation anymore? I mean, some of the VR right now is really good. And by the way, VR in this airplane, they are setting this airplane up for VR. And I will tell you right now that it is, it looks really good. I'm still not able to click on certain things that I need to be able to click on, and that's a problem. But sitting in the virtual reality cockpit of this airplane is really pretty good. It looks great. I can't wait to for those buttons to be working. And by the buttons that aren't working for me, I can't click into this area here, and I can't click into the area here. When I can click and type and do things in there, then I'm going to be a happy camper. And typing is going to be another thing, because if you got a set of virtual reality glasses on, unless you're a touch typist, which not a lot of flight simmers that I know are, that's going to probably be a problem. So I don't know how we're going to enter the data that we need to do that. Okay, coming up on 17,000 feet, it is at or below 17,000. The standard light is flashing, so altimeter for Denver is 30.25. So let's go click, and 30.25. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and go 30.25. This one might be off by a few. Oh, we're actually there. I'm also going to ring the bell for the flight attendants passing 18,000 feet. They really need to be close to be seated for landing. Okay, and now we're going to level this thing off. So we're at 17,000 feet here at Wookiee, and we have to maintain at or above 17,000 at Rams. And so it says altitude constraint, so the airplane knows that. And as we get closer to Rams, we'll watch our airspeed, and it's going to drop. It should, if I set it up right, it should drop us. We're going about 290, 295, and we should drop to 250 at Rams. So that's going to happen in 7 miles. Less than a minute. Time for a drink of coffee as we watch. Almost there. As you zoom in on the instruments on these airplanes, they just look so good. And there we go. Notice our speed. We are 4 miles from Rams, and now all of a sudden it's dropping our speed. So we're going to drop to 250 knots. So it knew to slow our speed down to 250 coming in. And so the same thing should happen at Tichenor. Although we actually slowed at 210 at Be Done as well too. And we're supposed to be level at 13 at Tichenor and 10,000 at CU. So we're starting down again. We're still going a little fast here. We're at thrust idle. But we're okay. The arrow's still going down, so we're still dropping our speed here down to 250. There's 250, so we're doing just fine. So go back and do checklists right now. External lights, those have been done. Actually, I think we forgot to do landing lights. Good thing I did a checklist, so that's good. The data is good. The barrel references have been verified and checked. So we're good there. We'll monitor our descent. Rate of descent is as required. Speed brakes, we'll use them if we need them. Weather on the EFIS, I don't need weather on the EFIS, and we're not going to need to do any holding patterns. So that's our descent. Next step is, we'll call this a precision approach, the initial approach. We'll hit the approach phase button soon. So we'll be into approach phase soon. Positioning monitor, we'll manage that. Speed management's going to be a little bit different. Okay. So let's go ahead and activate LS. Speed management, once we get to 210, one of the things you're going to notice that I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze my speed at about 210 knots. As I go and I watch airplanes on approach, particularly the one that we're doing right now, the Denver approaches, they keep their speed up until they hit Jetson. So I'm noticing, watching FlightAware, so their speed's 210, 190, and it stops at 190 here at Jetson. And then, of course, this is sort of the slam on the brakes phase, I guess. So I will keep my speed 210 and then maybe get down to 190 for Jetson, and then I will go ahead and let the airplane manage my speed on the way down. And that's just watching as the airplanes do this on FlightAware. It's really kind of interesting to watch what the actual airplanes do when they're coming into the airport that you regularly fly in and out of. So we'll do that. We've activated LS. That's good. I will generally just leave my maps set up like this. There is a landing, an ILS and LS system that you can click in here. I really kind of like to just leave the map view in. We are just going over the Front Range of Colorado. There's I-25 going over Loveland, Colorado on the north side. I don't think there's an awful lot of snow there, although I'm using Active Sky, so it's not like the X-Enviro snow layer, which looks really good. There'd definitely be a reason why I'd be interested in that. Okay, so 210 and above 14,000 feet at Be Done. 13,000 feet and 210 at Tichenor is what we need to be at. So we got to see if we can hit that. We may have to help our descent along. Now notice it's really slowing us down a bit here because we got to get to 210 knots. As soon as we get to that 210, I'm going to throw out flaps 1 to help moderate the speed on the way down as well too. I'm going to dial my map in another one and go down. And where are we on the checklist? Next thing I really need is to hit the approach button. So that's next. How's everything up here? Strobes are on, beacons on, nav lights are on. We don't need logo lights. Landing lights are on. I'm going to preload my runway turnoff lights and the nose lights for taxi. Actually, no, for full. So that's good. Seatbelts, all of that is good. These are, of course, off while the wheel's up in the wheel well, but as it comes down, it will turn on as the gear deploys. Okay, our speed's 210. I'm going to go ahead and do flaps 1. This is going to help us keep a little bit of control of the speed on the descent here. There's flaps 1. I'm also going to take this opportunity to arm the speed brakes. So speed brakes have been armed, and there's flaps 1. This is going to help us not get too fast. All right, so 210 and 14,000 feet. Actually, we should be at 13,000 feet here. So we're just kind of inching our way down, but at shred, if we're not at 10,000 feet, I'm going to be a little worried. This might be a point where I'm going to need to take control of this. So let's go over here, and I'm going to go ahead and check my speed. It's already slowing me down to 155. I don't want to do that. I want to be 210. There's airplanes stacked up behind me. So 210, and now it's 10,000 feet was our last altitude that we needed to stop at. I'm going to go 10,000 feet, and we're going to go ahead and help us down, because it gets a little tangled up on that part of the approach. So this is going to get me 10,000 feet here at Shred. So we're still at 14. We're way too high. And maybe about 2,000 feet per minute should do us. We're also going to keep an eye out here for a couple of little triangles, purple triangles, indicating glide slope and localizer. So 13,000. There's Skim J. We may not hit that 10,000 at Shred. So we might have to do that 9,000. This is why it's such a good idea to plug these numbers in, even though they're not official constraints. That way you can see where it is you're supposed to be. Fact is, let's just go ahead and plan on that right now. 9,000 at Shred at Newland. A little hazy this morning along the Front Range of Denver. That's usually kind of normal, especially this time of year. I call it the chill haze in the morning. Okay, there's CU. We're still on the flight plan. Still waiting for the little purple triangles to show in glide slope and localizer. 12,000 feet. Still a little high. We're at 210. Actually, we're picking up some speed. How about some speed brakes? See, we sped up because we're descending a little bit fast now. We got to throw out some speed brake here. This is the 757. I can play catch up super fast. I'm going to go down to 7,000. On this airplane, you can't do that so well. And in fact, we're still speeding up, so we're going to go more speed brake. Now we're at 10,000 feet. Still a little bit too high. But we are catching up to where we're supposed to be. Okay, 9,000 at Newland. We're going to make that, so let's start moderating this descent a little bit. How about around 15? That'll help us control our speed a little bit better. Okay, we've got glide slope, we got localizer, arm the approach. Alright, so we're below the glide slope, that's good. We're on the localizer, so that's good. Let's arm the speed brakes. We're done with that. Flaps are already at 1, but it doesn't show that, so it is going to turn it red. I believe we have localizer capture. We do, so we're good there. Our next step in the process is glide slope capture. And we're looking for this right here. We're a little bit low, so now let's go ahead and slow this descent even more. And this is going to basically, we'll slowly catch up to that, but we won't go below the 7,000 feet at Jetson. And we're keeping our speed up to 210. I'm going to go ahead and go to 190 though, as we get in, because we're in this little semi-slowdown zone. There is the interstate up to Greeley. Denver's DIA is off there to the right. There's the downtown Denver area. And one more click of the map. This would be when we'd also be calling in Denver traffic, 10-mile final. And we're on our descent there pretty good. How about gear? And glide slope. The box is around the glide slope, and we now have glide slope capture. So we're good with glide slope. Next step is going to be another notch of flaps. We're going a little fast. Let's get some speed brake action here. Big airplane. We do not want to come in hot. 240, 220. So again, being on your glide path is important. Otherwise, you're chasing the numbers on the way down, and this airplane doesn't do that. The 757, I could just, you know, hit the submarine dive horn.
2,000.
And we're still going too fast. So let's go ahead and now, I just hit the manage speed, so now it's going to drop us down to 130. And how about another notch of flaps? Still got speed brakes out because we're going too fast, but we have glide slope and localizer, so we're good there. You're really busy in the cockpit right now. There's a lot of people that have taken command of their autopilot. We're just too busy at the moment. We're also kind of pointed down at the ground right now. We've also gotten a little bit too high. So this airplane does actually point at the ground as opposed to the Boeing. Okay, speed brakes up. We're good there. Armed and ready to go. By now, I don't even have time to do a checklist. Another notch of flaps. We're at flaps 3. You're going to notice a couple of hesitations. That'll be the scenery loading as we come on in. Flaps full. This is about as good as it gets.
100 above.
Winds are off to the left. My airplane. Yeah. This airplane also floats, so
200.
there's that hesitation as the scenery loads.
100, 90, 80, 70.
Missing it a little bit.
50, 40, 30, 20, 20, 10, 10.
Reversers. And we're not going to make that turn off. A little bit fast. Brakes are hot. I was stomping on that a little bit. Reversers are good. Sometimes my reversers do not kick in. Very heavy jet. And welcome to Denver. Let's get those brake fans on. Flaps up. Speed brakes. Look at that, not a scratch. Okay, here we are. Probably not the best looking landing. This still is kind of hard for me to manage a lot of this. You get so busy coming in. I've rarely had a landing that has been totally smooth, not by the numbers and stuff. Okay, landing lights off, strobes off. Let's start the APU. Would have been nice on this video if I could have eked out a decent landing, but oh well. That's going to happen. We are off on Whiskey Bravo. Would have rather done the high speed down. That's a little bit cooler. I also don't check the little box there to flatten out my airports. One of the things about Denver is Denver Airport does have some, it does have hills. And so you can see, you know, we're actually going to go up a little bit of a hill. If I hadn't turned off that little knob here on the radio, this one right here, the marker, it would be going beep, beep, beep at us right now. By now the flap is open. Let's start her on the APU. Might help if I get in the center here. And we're going to be looking for Bravo 33. So you can manage this airplane. It gets a little bit, I heard another live streamer use the term, gets a little bit sporty if you're on VATSIM and you have to change your runway and you have to change your approach. That's why I definitely recommend, if you're going to have to make a change, have something like Navigraph with a moving map off to the side so that you can do that temporarily, and that should work. Now there's a lot of folks that are saying use simple FMC, and that works well for them too. Again, I'm not trying to say this is right or wrong. This is just the way that I've been doing these particular flights. And can you imagine what this airplane's going to be like when the version 2 does come out? I mean, it's going to be super. So hopefully this has helped out just a little bit. I will be looking in the comments section on YouTube, and I'll also be looking for comments on the live stream too over on Twitch. That's Twitch TV/757Spy. And I hope that you have an opportunity to come and join us on one of our regular flights. I do group flights fairly regularly. There is a schedule that I update on my flight schedule on Twitch TV. Look for that just below the video window. If you turn on to Twitch TV and you see somebody else is flying, I also do a lot of auto hosting. There are some really knowledgeable flight sim pilots out there that I really enjoy watching, and so I enjoy checking in with them. I just turned on the bleed and also the generator for this airplane. Now we're going to go to ground services and get ready with ground gear. And we're coming up on Bravo 33. There's 31. One of the things that would happen right now is we were at a smaller airport. So a smaller airport, even with a big airplane like this, they would be using the door L1. Here in Denver, they would be using the L2, maybe the L1 and the L2, the first two doors on the left side. I don't think that that's modeled quite yet, but eventually it would be nice to be able to use those. There's Bravo 33. Going to turn off the nose lights so we don't blind the person that's there. And then we're going to keep a close eye on this person. Kind of hard to see. There's our gate guidance. Brakes are hot, so they're going to be grabby as we try and come in, so I'm very gently pressing the brakes. And now we kind of got to go way up here and look down. And we still may not be able to see them. Fact is, we probably won't. So let's go ahead and go like this. All right. And we'll go ahead and let the airplane roll forward until we see the guy appear. Let's help this out. There he is. Now let's release the camera. This is about the only way. Now, one of the things that this airplane has, the real airplane has what's called a nose light. And a nose camera, I mean. And that nose camera, you're supposed to be able to see, you know, who's ever out there. It's not implemented, I don't think, on this airplane, but I can't wait to see the landing or nose camera, I believe, on this. And almost there. And parking brakes. So we'll go on up here, and parking brake is on. Everything is set, so we can go do engine, and let's go on up here. Let's turn off the seatbelts. That's good. Let's also turn off the beacon. That's good too. We'll also disarm the emergency lights. And now we can go over here to ground. We're going to plug in chocks. We need a luggage loader. We need the baggage cart train, planes at the gate, ground power unit, ground power unit, ground power unit. Everything is good up there. And we'll plug in those GPUs. And then the last thing we'll do is go to doors and hatches. One left, forward, aft, four left, bulk, and left. This is the 2L. Someday it'd be great if they would actually implement those, because most of the airlines with a wide body or one that has that door right there, that's going to be something that's nice. So anyhow, we made it. We made it into Denver. And those are the ways that I'm able to make this work for me. I hope that maybe these are things that'll work for you as well. Once again, this is for version 1.5 of the Flight Factor A350. This is the A359. I'm sure that when the version 2 comes out, this will be completely irrelevant. But I can't wait for that. In the meantime, maybe this will help you do all the flying and spying that you want to do. And the last thing I'll say is, again, there's no right way or wrong way. This is just what is working for me. And I can't wait to read your comments down there below on YouTube. And I'll look forward to seeing you on Twitch TV, 757 Spy, for all sorts of flying fun. Thank you for taking the time to watch this with me. I hope you got something out of it, and I will look forward to seeing you online. Cheers.